Welcome to the Casey Ingram Show, where we break down the headlines, ask the tough questions, and bring you real conversations that matter right here on the Treasure Coast and beyond. If you like the show, be sure to hit subscribe button. I'm Casey Ingram. Let's get into it. Washington is under fire, quite literally, from spending to accountability, and today's guest wants in. Dan Franzese is back running for Congress in Florida's 22nd District, taking another shot at flipping the seat and bringing a finance-driven perspective to D.C. Welcome to the show, Dan, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning, Casey. Thank you for having me on your show. My background is finance. I earned my MBA in finance from Wharton, which is the same school where President Trump got his business training. And I always say if there's only one thing I want people to remember about me, it's that I'll bring a businessman's perspective to Washington. But there's a lot more than that to me, of course. A family man. I've been a very big leader in the community and also in business. And what I bring to Washington is a decades-long track record of success as a leader in the business world and in the community.
Well, Dan, you've run for this seat before against Lois Frankel, and you lost twice. Why are you running again?
So good question. I mean, people always tell me third time's a charm. And all joking aside, there are plenty of examples of people running and not getting in until their third time. One of the big one that comes to mind is Newt Gingrich. I had hesitation about running again because I didn't want to do the same old, but a couple of thoughts about that one. I went home discouraged after I lost last time, but I did get 45% of the vote, and a number of leaders have come back to me to say, hold on, that's actually a very strong showing. That I got 45% in a deep blue district, which was very consistent with President Trump's and Rick Scott's performance with those same voters. So they say it's just the opposite. You've proven that you're a good campaigner, someone that can get to the finish line, and someone who will win with the better district lines we expect to have this year. So that's what got me to come back into the race.
So that's what's different this time is the district lines?
Well, yes. I mean, even without any change in district lines, the district is rapidly becoming much more Republican. I mean, just to give you some numbers, it was 9% more Democrat when I ran in 2024. Without any change in the lines, it's already come down to 5.8%. So on that trajectory, it's going to be, even better without any changes. But so that's making it a winnable seat for a Republican. But Tallahassee is meeting this week on the new district lines, and the expectation is that this will be turned into a winnable Republican seat. So that's what made this interesting for me to run for again personally. But also, as I said before, I've proven that I'm a good campaigner. That's the feedback I get constantly. And that's why I feel people should be comfortable supporting me to win the seat this year.
And you're right, 45% is an awesome showing in a very, that has been traditionally very blue seat. With some changes this year, it'll be a great race to watch and a big commitment from you. People, I don't think always realize the commitment it is to just run for office for not only you, but your family.
Well, absolutely. I mean, doing it right is a 7-day a week full-time commitment. I'm full-time on the campaign. I'm blessed that my wife is full-time on the campaign with me as well. And it really is a gigantic team effort. I mean, at the end of the last campaign, I had 400 volunteers signed up.
Wow.
And I expect I'll have even more this time. We had the biggest ground game in the county, and I expect it'll even be bigger this time. But yeah, I can't do this by myself. I put everything into it, but it's also going to take literally hundreds of people to make this happen.
So there's a growing public frustration with members of Congress trading stocks. You said you would divest. Why is this important?
Well, I think you have to give confidence to the American public that your interests are aligned with theirs, and you're in Washington spending your whole time trying to make things better in this country rather than enriching yourself. And you're right. I have pledged that when I'm elected, I will sell all of my individual shares and not do any trading. I'd like to see that put into law if we can do that. But either way, I plan to lead by example by doing that. I'd like to see Lois Frankel do that because she's been dogged by accusations of insider trading. I mean, 3 years ago, she had an unusually well-timed sale of the shares of First Republic stock before it became public that it was tanking, and that she had an equally well-timed purchase of shares of JP Morgan Chase before it got a very nice deal to pick up the assets of First Republic. So what happened there is one of two things. Either she and her stockbroker are the most brilliant traders in the history of finance, or perhaps they knew something. I mean, my bet is on A, not B. But, after 3 years, she's never been investigated. I and others have called for an investigation, but nothing has happened. And funny enough, it doesn't get reported here in Palm Beach County. It's been reported by the world press, financial press all over the world. but never locally. And people, this is part of what I'm running on. I'm running on a three-part platform of affordability, accountability, and America First. And on the accountability side, that's one great example of that, of members putting their own interests ahead. You have to take that out of there. And there's a lot more on accountability, but on this particular issue, it's terrible that these members are trading stocks. So at a minimum, it's a distraction for them that they shouldn't have. Even if they're not doing anything nefarious, you don't want them distracted. You want them working full time on making this country a better place. But I know it must be for many people tempting when they hear about something to want to go trade on it. You just need to take that temptation away, but you also have to do that to give confidence to the voters that our people aren't distracted and they aren't thinking about the wrong things.
Amen to you. I have done many shows on the insider stock trading issues here, and it certainly goes across the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans. And it's very frustrating to see somebody really enrich themselves with insider trading while the regular American can be put in jail for doing the same things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me tell you some more about that. So I worked my bulk of my career in finance. We had very strict limits. In fact, one company I worked for didn't allow us to do any trading whatsoever. Period. Period. Just to totally take it off the table. And when I look back, that probably was the best policy. There were other places where you were allowed, but my God, the hoops you had to jump through. You had to sign affidavits that you had no insider information. Your boss had to sign off. The compliance team had to sign off. And even then, there were times when they wouldn't, when they say, you know what, it's possible, someone in the company knew something, we just don't want it. And that's how things operate in the private sector. Why the heck shouldn't it work that way for the people who were entrusted with the government, right?
100%. 100%. When we said public servant, that's certainly not what we meant.
No, no, no. We don't mean
So
serving yourself. We mean serving the public.
that's exactly
That's what
right.
needs to be focused on. And insider trading is a bad thing. A lot of people think it's a victimless crime. That's not true. It's a very serious crime. And
It is a very serious
it
crime.
gives you an unfair advantage over the people on the other side of the trade. So there are people that are harmed by it. So anyone who says it's a harmless thing is absolutely dead wrong.
They are. Absolutely. Would you support legislation requiring blind trust?
For the portfolios, I mean, yes. I mean, but the thing is, that's kind of what a lot of people say they do now. It's in a blind trust, and if that's the best we can get, that's better than what we have now. But the blind trust can still own shares, and there's always going to be worries and temptation for the member to get on the phone, call their broker who's managed the blind trust, say, get out of First Republic right now, it's going to tank. And oh, by the way, go buy JP Morgan. So I see that as a half measure. It's better than nothing, for sure. But I would say that shouldn't be allowed either. It should be 100% directly or indirectly out of stocks. Period.
The other thing that brings up a point is, what about family members? It might even be mom or dad or cousin, or legislative aid. This is a really tough topic to try and control.
So during the whole time I worked in finance, whatever the rule was, whether it was a prohibition or hoops you had to jump through, it applied not only to me, but any member of my household. So my wife couldn't go do it in her own accounts, and we couldn't do it on behalf of my kids and their accounts. Where it's trickier, you're right, is parents and cousins and so forth. But most certainly that's illegal. It's just it's right. It absolutely is illegal. If I were to call a distant cousin you never heard of with a different last name and told them to buy this or that because I know something's going to happen, that is a violation of federal law. And so certainly, anything that we pass in the House, I think most certainly should apply to the member and his immediate family, is what I think the legislation should be.
So if elected, you would commit to full financial transparency for voters. And one thing, Dan, before you answer that, I always find it amazing. It would be interesting to see a members of Congress initial financial portfolio or standing when they are elected to Congress, and then 8 years down the road what it looks like.
Well, it's amazing how many of these people go in poor and come out rich. I mean, Ilhan Omar,
100%.
she's saying she's not really worth $30 million. It's a clerical error. It's only $95,000. Well, that's talk about clerical errors. But it's amazing how rich these people come, and ditto for Nancy Pelosi and team. And I tell everybody, listen, I just want to hold on to what I have. Okay, if I can hold on to what I have when I go there and have it when I come back, I'll be happy. And that's the standard I've set for myself. And yes, I'm committed to full transparency. I mean, the House Ethics Committee does keep track of this. I do have to give financial disclosures, even as a candidate. Actually, you do have to submit that, and I'm more than comfortable, making that the public record. I mean, what you're going to see is a lot of ETFs and bank CDs and treasury securities is what you'll see on the day I'm sworn in, because I've said I'm going to sell individual stocks.
So we've seen recent resignations and investigations, including Sheila Sherfilis McCormick stepping down. Do you think accountability in Congress is broken?
There's a lot of work to do there. The amazing thing with Sheila Sherfilis McCormick is the things she was finally called to carpet on. We've known about them for 4 years. I don't know if you're aware of that. I remember when she was running
Oh.
for Congress the first time, her primary opponent brought up every single thing that's now there. Why did that take 4 years? I mean, why? Why? Don't tell me it took them time to collect the evidence. I mean, we just sent people to the moon and back in 10 days, right? So,
Right.
so it shouldn't take 4 years to to uh, uh, to move that along. So absolutely, and we talked about Lois Frankel. Like I said, there was never any investigation done, and those are suspiciously well-timed trades. And accountability. One of my three pillars of my platform means certainly these kind of things, but it also means things like schools that aren't educating our kids. When I was growing up, the U.S. had the best math scores and reading scores in the world. We're now at best middle of the pack. Yet the school system gets more money given to it. So the price
Mhm.
of failure shouldn't be given more money. It should be a rethink. And also same thing with some of our political leaders. Gavin Newsom is quite arguably the most failed governor in American history. And so what are people saying? Oh, he should be president. And
It's
Abigail Spanberger, she set a record. She set a record. The quickest time that a politician ran on one platform and then later on said, guess what, guys? I was lying. Here's what we're really going to do. I mean, wacky stuff like even a dog tax. I think it's a dog grooming tax. But
okay.
and what are they saying about her? She should be Gavin Newsom's running mate. I mean, this is the crazy. I couldn't make this stuff up. If I wrote a fiction book with this in there, you'd say that's too unreal. Nobody would believe it. But that's what's happening. So there has to be accountability for them and for the politicians who take unfair advantage of whatever resources are given to them. The same thing with our court systems and our prosecutors. How many people have been let loose from prison early and gone on and killed somebody or raped
Yes.
somebody? There has to be stricter penalties and, more importantly, accountability for the prosecutors and judges that let these people loose. So accountability is most definitely broken in this country, and that's why it's part of, like I said, my AAA platform: affordability, accountability, America first.
It's a tough thing to overcome. The government's gotten so big and wieldy. How does one person like you, it starts with somebody, it has to. But, how do you get more members to join in? Because I love speaking with new members or new candidates because everybody's like, they want to fix the system. And then I think it gets overwhelming once you get to Washington, D.C. to try and change so many other minds that are already, ingrained in the system.
I mean, there are a lot of forces working against you. I've been warned that the day I get there, they'll say, okay, Dan, you want to do what? You want to be on what committee? Okay, that's good. But you got to do this, this, and that. You got to play ball. You got to go along and get along. And I'm not going there to go along and get along. I'm going there to try to fix things. And very important thing is I don't view what I'm doing here as a career. People often say, oh, tell me about your new career. And I said, well, actually, I had a career. This is not a career. This is government service. I'm going there to give something back. So my goal isn't to go there and rise through the ranks and play ball and sit in the back bench and keep my mouth quiet. I'm going to talk about all these uncomfortable things like insider trading and shares of stock and people who should be investigated but aren't. I mean, another one is Swalwell. I mean, obviously that had been going on for years, and yet they didn't do anything about it until they wanted to get him out of the governor's race. So that's disgraceful. 50 former staffers came forward and said he was harassing people. I mean, they have obviously known this about a long time.
Right.
Why didn't they take action until now? It's disgraceful. It should be immediate. So back to your original question of how can, one lone voice do something? Well, I'm going to fight for it. And if I only last a few terms because of that, so be it. I'll go back home with the satisfaction I did this the right way instead of playing along like just another political hack. I'll tell you
So
another
what?
thing. I'm I'll be running to President Trump to be his congressman. I think that might give me a little more influence. I think it might,
Yes.
and I'll- might give me the ability to get him on the phone every now and then and bring things up with him. So I think these things will give me some influence as well. But I'm going there for the satisfaction of doing the right thing, and 20 years from now, hopefully telling my future grandchildren, I was there when we fixed the problems in this country. That's what I want to tell my future grandchildren. Okay, that's what I want to tell them, and that's what for me personally is motivating me.
So in practical terms, what does the meaning of draining of the swamp? What is that meaning to you?
Well, it means things like reducing the government workforce. I was pleasantly surprised to see we've already gotten it down by 10% in 1 year. A year ago, I would not have predicted a number that high. And so, one by one by one, we're downsizing these organizations, eliminating the bloat, eliminating the redundancy, but very importantly, getting rid of functions that really weren't serving the country, like all these things we're doing, all the foreign aid and spending money on comic books for other countries. I mean, there's just a lot of wacky stuff that was going on at
Mhm.
USAID, and again, getting the waste out of there. But most importantly, back to the accountability. People there are all too often working for some agenda that's their own, as opposed to what we were all elected and sent there to do. And I'll be one of the voices doing everything I can to make that happen.
Well, what specific reforms would you support to increase accountability in Washington?
Things like the financial disclosure, like you talked about, and more transparency. Sunlight is one of the best disinfectants, as I think
Mhm.
one of our founding fathers said. And just to be more, be need to be more awareness of it. And like I said, taking 4 years to bring Sheila McCormick to a trial is insane. There should be more resources dedicated to that. And you want to hope to also elect leaders who come in with the mindset I have, which is I'm not going there to develop a 20-year career and go on, get along. I'm going there to fix things and get things right.
So that brings my next question. Should there be term limits for members of Congress?
100%, 100%. I mean, I've signed that pledge a long time ago. I think what it does is it creates just a steady flow of new people coming in with new ideas. Like for instance, in my case, coming out of the financial services and what I saw firsthand on how prohibitions on trading work. That's the kind of new ideas you get if you bring new people in. Also, it takes away the power of incumbency. We all know once an incumbent is there, it's hard to get them out. And what I keep hearing is we'll lose good people. And I say, okay, perhaps that's true, but I could think for every one good person we might lose, I could think of dozens of bad ones we'll lose. And I think that's worthwhile. And it also doesn't just immediately throw you out of public life. I mean, you do have the ability to run for something else or after some cooling off period, come back. And people say you'll lose the benefit of those good people. I say, well, again, we're not putting them in a closet. They still have a platform where they can talk. So I think it's a good thing for our country. It's what our founding fathers intended. They didn't intend politics to be a career. They intended it that someone will tend their farm for a few years. They'll go to Washington for 4 years, fix something. Their brother-in-law, somebody will take care of the farm. He gets done and he goes back to the farm and sends someone else up to do it. I mean,
Exactly.
in fact, that's how you get government by the people. You don't want government by a ruling class. You want government by the people. And that's how you get it. You get a steady flow of people instead of politicians if you have term limits. So I wholeheartedly support it.
Amen to that. If you go to Congress, will you try to do something to actually get, term limits enacted? I know President Trump has spoken about term limits are a good thing. Again, everybody, when they're first running, yep, we want term limits. And then they get there and it's like, oh, well, nobody else is doing it.
Now, I would support it. So the interesting thing, I don't know if you remember Newt Gingrich's contract with America. There were 10 items on it. 9 of them were enacted. Do you know the one that wasn't?
No,
Term
term
limits.
limits.
So there's powerful institutional forces against it. I'm certainly in that one that would go for it. And, I would hope President Trump would continue to be in favor of it. I mean, we have it for president. No reason we shouldn't have for everyone else. Because again, I think if you get a steady flow, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's very important. If you get a steady flow of people in there, you get government by the people for the people, not government by a ruling class. So important.
Exactly. We're hearing a lot of rhetoric about political warfare over redistricting from leaders like Hakeem Jeffries. Is that where politics is heading?
That's certainly one of the big debates du jour. And and Hakeem Jeffries said, "Look out! I'm coming to Florida." And I was so happy that Governor DeSantis said, "Come on down. You can stay at my house. I'll take you fishing." I mean, that's how I feel about that. It's what's going on in this country right now. And we have district lines certainly in Florida that look really ridiculous, and I do feel they need to be changed. And I do support what we're doing, and I'm happy this week. Tallahassee is meeting on Tuesday, so we may know as soon as Tuesday night, or hopefully by Wednesday, what the new districts are. But my expectation is, like I said before, my district, which is already becoming more Republican, is going to be a winnable Republican seat. And I'm really looking forward to the general election and finally flipping the seat red and finally giving President Trump a conservative Republican that represents it. Because right now, who represents him? One of the most left-wing people in the Congress. So Lois Frankel keeps a very low profile, and it's deliberate. And that's why, believe it or not, I run into Republicans who think, oh, she's not out there. She's not crazy. She's not a moderate. Oh, yeah? She's got a voting record that will curdle milk. I mean, she's pretty much 100% with the squad. I mean, she says one thing and she does something else. I mean, we could talk for an hour, but let me give you a highlight. She says she supports women. Really? She voted to keep men in women's sports and in their locker rooms and in their bathrooms. She says she supports seniors. She voted to tax Social Security. So she says she supports safe streets. Oh yeah. She voted against deporting dangerous illegal aliens. And it goes on and on. All the things that she's done. Oh, she says she supports Israel. Well, for years she was in the Progressive Caucus, which is about as anti-Semitic as they come. She didn't quit it until a lot of people, including myself, called her out on it. And also, she was not there. She was a no-show on a day when there was a vote of support for the Abraham Accords. It's passed, by the way, with over 400 votes. The only people
Wow.
who voted against it were people on the squad and people associated with them. She was suspiciously a no-show that day. We never got an explanation. So she's someone who does one thing here and something else there. And I'll tell you another fun fact, well, not so fun fact, a scary fact about her. She's there 14 years. Did you know she's only enacted 5 bills in that whole time? And 2 of them were for naming statues, and 1 of them was for a post office.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
And
that's
I,
not
I
accomplishing
assure
a lot.
you, Casey, I will do better than that. I will do better than that. That's an easy bar. That's a very low bar to exceed. I will do better than that.
Your district is absolutely going to love this. And, we're talking about warfare. We're talking about, all this divisiveness. And we are recording this show. It's actually Sunday morning, April 26th. And President Trump had the third attempt on his life last night in Washington, D.C. Thank God he's okay.
Yes.
Everybody,
Thank
is,
God.
and hopefully, the Secret Service agent that did take a bullet will be fine as well. We certainly send our thoughts and prayers. But, in this environment, how do you work across the aisle?
Well, last night was terrible. We thankfully avoided a tragedy yet again, and God bless the Secret Service for acting as swiftly as they did. By the way, they're not being paid right now, so I'm even more grateful that they're showing up. And you notice when they realized that there were shots being fired, did you see an agent actually ran up in front of the president, big, huge guy, put himself in front like a shield? God bless
Yes.
the Secret Service. This is what happened. This kind of stuff is terrible, and we're in a terrible political environment right now. I really want people to cool it down. Running around telling people Trump is Hitler is not helping anything. It's going to stir up the crazies and just makes it harder for half a discussion. I mean, I'm out talking. I'll talk to anybody in my district, Republican, Democrat, whatever. And all too often, I run into Democrats. They don't even want to talk about the issue. They just say Trump is Hitler, Trump is a fascist, Trump is a dictator, Trump is this. And when you ask them for evidence about, okay, what makes him a fascist, a dictator, or Hitler, they just say, well, he is. I mean, or someone recently said, well, he wanted to put his face on the $100 bill. It's like, really? That's what you're worried about? When we've got countries all over the world that want to kill us. And before he was reelected, we had a border that was letting in millions of dangerous people. And here's another thing people aren't aware of. And I know this from talking because I took a tour of the border wall, but I've heard it other times from Tom Homan. Do you realize a third of the women and girls that made the trek through Mexico and came across the border were raped? And what we had going on at our southern border was truly, I think, the greatest crisis of mass rape in world history, all while people are patting themselves on the back that we're doing something humanitarian. And so I tell people, so that doesn't bother you, but it does bother you what maybe Trump, some remark he made about somebody? Come on, get your priorities straight. And I think we need to get back to that and talk about the facts. I will say, when we talk about the facts and results, Republicans and President Trump, we win.
And you bring up that southern border. There's so many things, the women that were raped, the child trafficking that went on. There was actually even people that were coming in from the Middle East through that border. We had absolutely no control, and who knows how many cells are in our country now. I continue to worry about that. So we absolutely need strong leadership and protect our country, America first, without a doubt.
100%, 100%.
100%. So getting back here to your district, the primary field is getting more crowded. What separates you from candidates like David Burke?
So I have actually 7 people filed. And I'm not surprised that there are a lot. It is President Trump's district, and there are going to be a lot of people that want to get into the race. Feel like, given I've run twice before, that gives me a tremendous multi-million-dollar name recognition advantage over anyone else that wants to run. But it's more than just name recognition. I already have an infrastructure and a team in place, a ground game in place, and which I'm confident makes me, and everyone tells me, makes me the front runner by a mile. So my focus is frankly on Lois Frankel and winning the seat back and educating the voters on just how bad a job she's done. I know from talking to Democrats that there's traction there. You know, when people find out who she is and how bad she's been representing them, I get a lot of Democrats look at my stuff and say, "Huh, how do you pronounce that again?" And Franzese. Okay, you're my guy because it's amazing for someone who's been in public life here for about 30 years. She was 14 years in Congress. She was, I think, 8 years mayor, West Palm Beach, and she was a state legislator for that. It's amazing how many people actually don't know who she is, and that's deliberate. She stayed below the radar, coasted by having a D next to her name, and that worked when she was in a district that was Democrat plus 15. Well, it doesn't work anymore. And in particular, since we've had President Trump back in office and Republican Congress over the last year, she's been forced to take votes unlike she ever had before. And that gives me just tremendous firepower now to expose her as someone who's just doing in general a terrible job of representing our country as well as our district. I feel she's extremely vulnerable. And that's what the focus is on.
I love that you're looking beyond the August primary, that you will be the candidate to run against Lois Frankel. So that's fantastic. You do have to get through that primary, and that brings me to, one of your other competitors in the race. You've got Herbert Wertheim entering the race. Does money change the dynamics of this campaign?
So he calls himself Dr. Herbie, by the way, and you know what? I've run before against candidates who were far better funded than I was, by the way. And my answer to that is, how did I do it then? I outworked them, had a message that resonates. And I have, like I told you, if someone wants to play the money game, I have a multi-million-dollar name recognition head start based on what I was doing before. And also, funny enough, Lois Frankel attacking me by name in her ads. That helped my cachet as well. So, I'm still confident I will prevail for those reasons.
Do you think voters are even concerned about candidates trying to buy a seat?
Yes. I mean, they want people who are going there for the right reasons, and they want people who've got a platform who they know. What they don't want is someone who just shows up and says, I'm going to write a check and become your congressman." That people absolutely don't want that, and that's feedback I've been getting over the last couple of weeks. I'm ready to give it my all. I'm ready to put in the 80, 90, and 100-hour weeks. I'm able to do it. And that's how I've always been my whole life. I'm not like quite like President Trump. I don't get behind 4 hours of sleep, but I'm closer to him than I am to the average person. And so that's what I'm giving to my campaign. And that's what I'll give to being your congressman. And I'm very much looking forward to that.
So, speaking of President Trump, you've received support from him in the past. How important is his endorsement in this district?
Well, I was honored to be endorsed by him in 2024. He said very good things about me that I was very grateful for. We've obviously reached out to his team to try to sew that up again. And the answer's always been, we're going to wait until we know what the new district lines are. I feel, but I very much want the endorsement. I think it's something that sends a message to voters. He is still very widely respected in the Republican community, and it is something I want. And, strategically I want it, but personally I want it. I've supported him for a very long time. In fact, people talk about the escalator. I lived in New York City in the 80s and 90s, so I supported him back then. I was one of the people that wanted him to run for mayor of New York before Rudy Giuliani came on the scene. So I've supported him for a long time. Also, in May of 2023, when he was still in court fighting all these battles, I came out and endorsed him. And people said, why would you ever do that to pick a candidate right now, especially a candidate that's in court? And my answer was, he's not just a candidate. He's the guy who I trust the most to fix the problems in this country. And
Right.
that's why he's my guy, and he will always be my guy. So on a personal level, I absolutely want it, but I think it's going to be a good thing for my campaign as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. District 22 has a large senior population. How do you protect Medicare and Social Security while also addressing federal spending?
So I've made it very clear. It's on my issues list on my website that I will protect Social Security and Medicare We've all paid into it. I've personally paid into it for over 40 years. I want my money back. I mean, that's how I feel. And every voter I talk to sees it that way. I feel it can be protected. And that's something that's a vow I'm making. I will not allow them to be touched.
This is definitely a state issue I'm bringing to you here, but if there's anything you can do on a federal level, and that is, what can you do to help residents dealing with rising insurance costs and property taxes? I bring that up because it is, one of the top issues here in Florida.
Yep, yep. When I talk to voters, that comes up a lot. Insurance costs come up a lot, and housing affordability comes up a lot. I say I tell people there actually are things that you could do in the federal government. It's not just a state issue. I think we can relax the laws on interstate insurance. That'll bring more insurance providers
Yes,
in. I studied economics a long time ago. You may have as well. What's one of the most critical ways to bring down the price of something? Create more supply of it, right?
that's right.
And that's one of the things we can do for insurance. And on housing, which comes up a lot too, do you know somewhere between 20 and 30% of the cost of a home, of a new built home, goes into compliance with regulations? Well, I would say let's cut those regulations and bring the housing prices down 10 to 20%. But moreover, allow more building, create more supply. So these are things that I talk to every day about to voters about. When something comes up that is truly I can't affect from Washington, I never say, don't bother me, call such and such. Not my problem. I never say that. I tell people, here's what I'm going to do.
Good.
If that comes up, educate me, tell me who I need to call. And when I'm a congressman, the mayor of West Palm Beach, I suspect, will take my call. And I'll have the influence that perhaps other voters don't have. So I always tell people, I'll never, ever, ever tell you it's a state problem. Don't bother me. I will find a way to help you.
Dan, this is a subject that comes up now and again. It always gets the light of day in the press, and people always have an opinion about it, but then it dies. And that's daylight savings time. You have a position on whether or not we keep daylight savings time or just stay with one time.
Stay with one time.
Amen.
It creates so much confusion for us.
Yes.
And I still don't see the benefits of it. And, every time they change the clocks, you have an increase in the traffic accidents, for example. So, I mean, people, I think, literally are dying because of it.
I was just
So
saying
that
heart attacks. You're right. Heart attacks.
That's right. That's right. It creates that problem. So there's that issue. But for everyone else, it just creates so much confusion. So I would love to just get back to just one time and not have to worry about it.
Okay, if you get in that up there, please bring that up. Let's get it done.
If I could vote on that, I'll vote on that. Trust
Okay,
me.
that'll be one of the bills maybe that you can take ownership of.
Okay.
That passes.
That's a slam dunk.
Okay.
I
I
don't know.
hope so.
Most people I know hate it. Most people
Yes.
I know hate it. I don't know what the numbers are on that one, but it doesn't matter. I hate it, and I think it's bad for our people and for all the practical reasons I just gave. So I
Right.
want to get back to just one time zone for us.
So back to something a little more serious. South Florida continues to deal with water quality and environmental concerns. What role should federal government play?
Well, federal government plays a big role in it, actually. Let me tell you something, a personal experience from 5 years ago. So I literally live across the street from Lake Worth Lagoon. And 5 years ago, we suddenly got these warnings, stay away from it. Stay away from it. Don't drink the water. Don't let your pets near it. And I said, what the heck? Toxic algae. And that came from mismanagement of, in my opinion, of Lake Okeechobee, which is managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So absolutely, we need to completely fix that. And there are people like Congressman Brian Mast who is addressing that. And, I would support that because clean water is important. I mean, it's not in my opinion, not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's a human being thing.
That's right.
We need clean waters. Rest assured, that is something I'm aware of, and we'll always support measures so that I never again have to be told, don't walk across the street or let your dog near there. It also apparently got into the water supply in some of the towns around here. I mean, that's a tragedy. So rest assured, I'm aware of it, and it's something I will pursue when I'm in Congress.
It's huge up here in the Stewart area on the Treasure Coast. We did have dogs die. We've had, several lost summers here. So, absolutely appreciate you keeping that on the forefront for all of us. And you're right, it's not a red or blue issue. It's an issue for life and for all of us.
Hmm.
But when environmental damage does happen, who should pay, the taxpayer or the private party responsible?
If the private party can pay for it, they should. And I know all too often they'll declare bankruptcy to dodge it, and we got to try to find ways to get around that. I mean, if you If you poison one of our rivers, you got to clean it up. But we all know that sometimes the damage is well beyond what any company, even if they want to help you, can pay. So unfortunately, we have to pay for it. But it is money well spent. Obviously, we have to go back to the culprits and get them to pay for it. That's very straightforward, in my opinion.
Would you support stronger enforcement, even if it impacts the developers and businesses
Yeah.
negatively?
Yes, yes. I mean, we want people to have homes, right? We want people to have nice places to live, but that can't be at the expense of poisoning the rest of us. And I take that very seriously.
Next topic is really huge right now, probably just getting on your radar because it's just getting on all of our radars, and that's data centers. And we're seeing growing debate over large scale data centers, including concerns about energy use, infrastructure strain, and community impact. At the federal level, what role should Congress play in regulating or supporting these projects?
You know how I feel about the data centers? Let's put them all in Alaska and Greenland. I know that sounds facetious, but I'm actually quite serious because one of the reasons they require so much energy is the air conditioning. So why do you want to put it in a place where it gets into the 90s in the summers? I'm serious. You should put it in a place like Alaska and Greenland where to cool them down, all you have to do is open the window. I'm 100% serious about that.
Dan,
And
I
and
agree with you. I appreciate you saying that. I've said that. I'm like, these things are so hot. Why are we putting them in a tropical climate?
Yeah, yeah, I don't get it. And regarding the strain on the power system, sure, I don't want to have to pay higher electricity because of these. I think they need to find ways to be self-sustaining, and creating micro generators, or there's new technology in micro nuclear reactors that has come improved by leaps and bounds in the last 5 years, and that could be a way of making all these entities self-sufficient. So I'm all in favor of that. So yeah, no, believe me, it's something that comes up a lot, and I understand what you're saying.
It does. It's a big issue right now.
Yeah, I don't even think they create a lot of jobs. I just There's not a lot of positives that come out of them,
Yeah,
and I think we're on the same page on that one. But people always laugh at me when I say put them in Alaska, but I'm dead serious. In this day and age of satellite technology and the internet, it doesn't matter where they are. The information can be piped around instantaneously. Why the heck do they have to be in a tropical climate? It doesn't make sense to me.
Do you see them as critical infrastructure for national security or primarily private development projects?
No, I think it's all the above. I mean, data is kings, right? And it's important to have the best possible data in making decisions, whether it's for private business trying to maximize something in the business world, or for our military to be able to design the best ways of defending ourselves. So I think we all benefit from it. I actually embrace it. I just think, like everything else, we have to make sure that we're not somehow throwing out the baby with the bathwater by, like
Right.
you say, driving up our energy costs, or other secondary impacts of it. So yes, I think it's important, and handled correctly, it could be a great thing. I mean, I've heard people come right out and say AI is evil. And I say, you know, every tool has the potential to be good or evil depending on who operates it, right?
Right.
A knife could be a good thing. You can cut your steak with it, or it could be a bad thing. You
Right.
can you can kill somebody with it. It's the same thing with AI. I think if properly managed, it's a good thing. I mean, it's tremendous. Just in my case, I'm able to find information infinitely faster than I used to be able to. And that's my pretty much my only use of AI.
Right.
And things that might take me 2 or 3 hours, I can find it. And then people say, but do you think it's telling the truth? I say, well, I'll go back to the primary source that it identifies for me, and saves me hours to find stuff. So I'm not against it.
No, I'm not either. It's a incredible time saver, makes us so much more efficient. So
Yeah, exactly.
completely. Now, should there be federal environmental or energy use standards for large scale data centers?
I think the critical thing is not so much how much energy they use, but who winds up paying for it. And if it's driving up my energy costs, okay, that's an issue. If it's self-sufficient, in general, I prefer, fewer federal regulations than more. And I think that's okay, so long as what they're doing is not impacting me.
I agree with you 100%. I think right now they're trying to make sure that the data centers pay for themselves, but then I always worry about just the entire structure of our utility system. It has to be upgraded somewhere along the line. So, outside of that perimeter of the data center, who's going to pay for those upgrades, and how do you decipher we needed that upgrade because of the data center? So, there's a lot of things to take into account,
Mhm.
but we'll see how that all plays out. Dan, if voters elect you, what is one measurable thing you'll deliver in your first term?
Well, if it hasn't already been passed, the Save America Act. I think that's critical for our country. I truly hope they get it done now. If not, I'm going to be pounding the table and insisting that that be bill number one in January and try to get it done then. So that would be my top priority.
And how should voters judge whether you have been successful once you're elected?
Well, I've told you about all these things I said I'm going to do, and you can measure me by those standards. And I'm going to fight for every one of these things and do everything I can to represent them. I'm going to approach this job the same way I've approached everything, whether it was my career in finance or coaching Little League baseball, where, by the way, I coached 8 seasons and never had a losing season.
Wow.
And it wasn't by accident. I went in and studied it and ran statistics on all the players and took a seminar in coaching and just threw myself into it. And that's how I got those results. It wasn't by accident. So there is something to take away from that. That's exactly how I'm going to approach being a congressman. I am going to throw myself into it, and I'm not going to be happy until I'm the best congressman we ever had. I'm serious. So I'm going to be working pretty darn hard at that.
I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. If you don't deliver, should voters replace you?
Yes, that's accountability. I mean, I'm absolutely, but we're not going to be having that discussion. And like I said, I'm going to give my last until my last breath. I will be working hard for the voters of this district.
Well, we've been speaking with Dan Franzese. He's running for Congress in District 22 on the Republican ticket. You can look for more information at danforusa.com, danforusa.com. Dan, as we wrap this show up, is there anything else that we can discuss here that we missed?
Sure. So the website has the word FOR in it. So danforusa.com. That's where you can learn more about me. I have a pretty extensive website with a detailed biography talking about the things I've talked about, my accomplishments as a leader over the last 4 decades, as well as my positions on a lot of issues. And I come back to something I said earlier. If there's only one thing you take away from this, is that I'll bring a businessman's perspective to Washington. And when I talk to voters, that's what they want. They don't want politicians. They don't want bureaucrats. They want people who are going to run the government like a business. And by that, we mean where there's going to be a focus on results. In the business world, if you don't deliver results, you lose your job. You don't get rewarded with more money. You
Right.
have to deliver results. So we have to deliver results to the shareholders and or the owners of the company in the business world. While as your congressman, the people I'm accountable to the voters. I have to deliver results. I'm going to be looking for ways to make things more efficient and serve the people. So again, I will bring the perspective of a successful business career to Washington, and that's how I will approach everything.
So Dan is trying to make a blue district red here, and we need to do that first step in August at the primary. Last thing, why should they vote for you over the other candidates in this race?
So like I said, I have a long track record of delivering results. I would say to line that up against everyone else, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I've also been around. I have run a few times. I've been incredibly consistent on what I've been saying on the issues. And what you see is what you get, and what you're going to be getting is a leader who delivers results. In fact, let me give you one final anecdote. Not long ago, I caught up with my last boss. He's somebody I worked for 10 years. And he said, if anyone ever called him up to check me out, he would say, if you want to get something done, put Dan Franzese in charge of it. So I would say, if you want to get something done in Washington, put Dan Franzese in charge of it. So there you go.
Sounds like a good campaign slogan to me. Dan Franzese, thank you so much. Don't forget to follow The Casey Ingram Show on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube for more real talk that you won't hear anywhere else. I'm Casey Ingram. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.
And thank you, Dan. It really has been a pleasure. I wish you a lot of luck here on this race, and go out there and get them. It's really been great to get to know you here a little bit more.
Same here. Appreciate the opportunity.